Hello and welcome to the next knitting tutorial video. Today we are going to be making a completely generic baby alien. Completely generic. This alien is not a true depiction of any person, being or otherwise created object, and any similarity to such is purely coincidental. Okay, so what we will need, you will need 2 different colours of extra chunky yarn. I ideally wanted a medium brown. I've gone for slightly lighter because the one that I wanted was a little dark. So this is I think this is oatmeal actually. And green is bright green or as dark green as your heart desires, but as long as, as long as you've got 2 different colours, super chunky yarns. They can be these colours, they can be other colours, it's your alien. Also a couple of buttons for eyes. These are actually really dark green rather than black, which I originally wanted. And some yarny to stitch those on with. You'll also need a 24 peg knitting loom, a knitting loom hook, a darning needle. I know I've said this on videos before, you don't need the crochet hook. You can do it with the knitting hook. This is for cast offs, but if you can get your hands on a knitting hook anywhere between a size 4 and a size 6, please do so. It makes your life 100 times easier. A pair of scissors, piece of paper and a pen, or a stitch counter to keep track of your stitches, and soft toy stuffing. Soft toy or stuffing cushion. Or stuffing cushion? Cushion stuffing. Those are all the things you need to complete this make. Okay, it's a nice and easy start on this one. We take our green yarn. This is the colour I'm using to do the body of the alien. If you want to do your baby alien a different colour, you can. But take whatever colour you are using for the body, pop a little slip knot in. We're going to pop that on our little keeper peg. You don't need to leave the yarn on these keeper pegs once you get knitting, by the way. I normally leave it on there for about 3 rows and then just take it off. It's just to hold it in place while we start working. And what we are then going to do is E-wrap every peg on the loom to cast on. So an E-wrap is basically where the yarn goes behind a peg, wraps all the way around before coming on to the next one. So called because if you look at it from the top down, it looks like a little letter E if written in cursive. So you're just going to go around every single peg. Around we go. And we are working in the round for the first part of this make. If you don't know what knitting in the round means, basically it means going round and round in circles on the loom, so you end up knitting a tube, like a circular connected tube of knitting. So once we've gone all the way around once, we simply go push the stitches down and go all the way around again. And at this point, all you do is you take your loom hook and you simply lift the bottom stitches up and over the top stitches all the way around. until we've lifted them all over. And that is our first row, so we'll mark that down as one row done. And then all we do is we push this row of stitches down, and go on to do exactly the same thing as we've just done. Wrap every single peg and knit a second row, and all you do is you continue to do that over and over again until you have knitted 20 rows. Once you've knitted 20 rows, come back to the video and we'll go from there. Okay, we have done 20 rows. Now, this is where things get a little bit more tricky, but again, we're going to do it step by step. It's going to be fine. You just need to follow it along. Now, what we're going to do is we are back on peg number 24. If you hear me use the number of pegs, it's basically, this is peg number 1, and then it goes 2, 3, 4, all the way around to peg number 24. And I'll use the number of pegs to refer to the number of the peg to refer to things sometimes, just because it's just an easy way to do it. So we are on peg 24, having completed 20 rows. Now, this is where things get a little tricky. What we're going to do is we're going to come back. So we're going to jump back to peg 23, 22, 21 in this direction. So we have our yarn off the back of peg 24, and we're just going to bring it around. And we are going to wrap 24, 22, 21, 20 and 19. So we have 6 pegs wrapped twice. Now we're going to just pretend these pegs on the bottom aren't here at the moment. We're going to push these ones down. I would try and push them at about halfway. Sorry. So we're going to try and push them to about halfway. So this is what we're looking at. And then we are going to be knitting in the flat now. So we're going to use peg 19 as a turning peg. So we're not going to wrap that again, but we're going to come back to peg 20, peg 21, 22, 23 and 24. I'm just going to secure my yarn out the way here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to knit off. We're ignoring the bottom ones. We're pretending they don't exist. And we're just knitting over the top 2 stitches that we've created there. Okay. So we are just knitting them over. So we're back to having 2 stitches. We've obviously ignored the peg number 19. That's turning peg. So we've knitted those over. So we now have 2 stitches on each one. Okay. We are now going to continue to E-wrap pegs 1 to 12. So we've got peg 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which is the one. 12 is usually directly opposite your turning peg, so you can see that there. Okay. What we are going to do at this point is I'm just going to tuck this behind some extra pegs and keep it out the way. So I'm just tucking the yarn back there. Then we're coming back to peg 12 and we're going to knit these off. So we just have 1 stitch on every peg. So we're knitting off pegs 1 to 12 or 12 to 1 because of the way we're doing this. Okay, now we are being careful that we are only knitting pegs 1 to 12 and we don't knit peg 24. That stays with 2 on. So we're just coming back to peg 1. Okay. Just going to push that down a little. Now coming back round to peg 12. What we're going to do is we are going to wrap pegs 13 to 18 which is another 6 pegs. So we're using the whole loom here, but as I said, we are now working in the flat. So what I'm doing here is I'm just, as you see, we've now got 2. This is peg 18. So we've now got 2 on each of those pegs. What we're going to do is we're going to use peg 18 as a turning peg, and we're going to come back and E-wrap 5. So we're going to E-wrap 18 as a turning peg, and then E-wrap 17 through to 13 again. So we have 3 stitches on pegs through. We've got peg 18 as a turning peg, 3 stitches each on pegs 17 back to 13, and we're just going to knit those off. Okay. Now for the rest, we are going to work in the flat now, and we're going to pretend this bottom row of stitches doesn't exist. Just ignore it. Just pretend it's not there. Doesn't exist. Not there. You can if you want, and I've done this on some patterns before where I've put loom bands along here or an elastic band just to like remind myself there's a barrier there and we're not working those stitches. So now I've come back to here on peg 13. I am going to wrap 12 through to all the way back through to 19. So we're going to go right the way down to peg 19. So that's peg 1. We're going to keep going back 24, 23, 22, 21, 20 and 19, which we do wrap this time because it's always the first. We do wrap 19 this time because it's always the first peg on a row you use as a turning peg, and this is effectively the first one on that row. That one we wrapped peg number 18, which we wrapped at the start of this. So it is basically knitting in the flat, but we're using peg 18 and 19 as the edges of that flat piece. So here what we can do is we just knit backwards, and because this brings us back to that peg number 19 there, we are going to call this row number 1. Okay, so these ones we knit normally, so they don't have an extra stitch on. These ones get knitted off. But we just make sure we only knit as far as peg number 12, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which is this one here. So in fact what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit that one off at that end and I'll know where it is. If I've already knitted peg number 12, I won't go past it because I'll be like, oh, that one's only got 1 on. It will remind me. Okay, so we're going to call that row number 1, and we're going to continue to work in the flat now, back and forth. So we're going to call that row number 1. And we are going to do, is it 7 or 8 rows? Let me quickly do the maths. So that was 1. So we're going to do 7. We're going to do 7 rows in total like this. So I've finished row number 1. Okay. Now I will reiterate, pegs from 13 to 24 will always have 2 stitches on it, and that's because you are ignoring the bottom ones and just pretending they don't exist. So starting row 2, again we just use our first peg in the row, which happens to be number 19, is a turning peg, and just wrap all of them. Wrap every peg this time. It's nice and simple now we've got it set up. Wrap all of them right the way around to peg number 18. And then we simply, again, ignoring the bottom row there, ignoring the bottom row on pegs 13 through to 24, we just knit off the top 2 stitches. That's the easiest way to remember it. We're knitting off the top 2 stitches. If there's only 2 stitches, you knit them both off. If there's 3, you just knit the top 2. Okay, so we knit all of those off, and this will be our, once we finish this row, this will be our second row. Oh, have to be careful with the chunky yarn in case you, sometimes you put your hook through the middle of the yarn. Okay, so here we're back to peg 1 to 19, which has 3 on, so we just careful, we just knit the top 2. There we go. And obviously that was a turning peg, so we don't have that one to knit off, so that's fine. And then again, you just continue knitting in the flat. So we mark that down on our tally sheet. So we've now done 2 rows. And again, at this point, we're just going to push our stitches down. We're going to come back, start wrap, use first one on the row as a turning peg, work back all the way around, same as we did on the last row, to start row number 3. So keep going until you've done a total of 7 rows like this, and then come back to the video. Okay, we have done our 7 rows, and your piece will look slightly lopsided. That is fine. Now this is what it looks like from the top. Now our goal here is to take all these odd little double wrapped stitches that we have and get it back down to just 1 stitch all the way around the peg. Now this is where our crochet hook comes in. As I said, you can use a knitting hook the same way as a crochet hook, but it's awkward. You can do it if you don't have one. If you can get a crochet hook, please get a crochet hook, especially for this pattern. And if you're out there going, this is a slightly more complicated pattern than they normally are, Lily, I know, I wrote it. I've lost sleep over this pattern. Okay. Now, I normally use my knitting hook and my crochet hook together. The first thing we're going to do, at this point, when you have finished your 7 rows, your yarn will be coming off peg number 19. Now what we're going to do is we are going to cast off down to peg number 24. So we're going to cast off the top stitch all the way along here, and the way we're going to do that is to put a small slip stitch between each one, because that helps keep the piece nice and flat instead of it shrinking up on the edges. So to do that, we simply lift it off, we bring our crochet hook in, we pull a loop through, then we take the next loop off and we catch it and we pull it through. Pull a stitch through, lift one off the loom and pull that one through. Pull a stitch through, lift one off the loom, and pull that one through. Now we're getting there. Pull a stitch through. Oh, be careful you don't split your yarn. Take one off the loom. And pull that one through. And for the last time, we're going to take one off, pull one through, take one off the loom, and pull that one through. Now, in order to neaten this up, all we're going to do is we are going to pull one more through, we are going to put that onto peg number 1. So what you have at this point is this little flappy piece of fabric and a piece that looks like this, basically. Okay, now with that one that's sat there, all you're going to do is just leave it there for now, and we are going to, this is now got 2 stitches on, so that's fine. We're just going to A-wrap across to peg number 12. So peg number 12 is the last one in the row that did have only 1 stitch on at this point. And then we're going to knit back. So and then we come back round to these ones which still have 2 on each. Can you guess what we do? Yes, you can. Of course you can. We simply take our crochet hook, actually wrap a stitch on there before you start lifting them off when you come to do it the second time round. So we're going to wrap a stitch around. We're going to not lift that one off. That was almost a disaster. Well, it wouldn't have been. I'd have fixed it. But, you know, be careful. Make sure you're on the peg with 2 stitches. Lift one off. Give it to the crochet hook. Offer it up to the crochet hook. Where we've pulled this yarn around, just pull it through. And then we're going to, once again, pull one through. Come here. There we go. And then lift one off the loom. One day I'm going to stab myself through the finger with a loom hook. It's not that complicated when you're not working around a camera. I know I say that in every video. Don't care. It's true. Okay. So then we're going to pull a loop through. take one off the loom. And pull that through. Pull one through. Take one off the loom. Put that through. Pop an extra stitch in of yarn. Pull that through. We're so close. Take one off the loom. She says, knowing what comes next in this pattern. Pull that through. Pop another one in. Okay. And we're off. And we're pulling it through. And we're popping an extra one on. And then we are getting some scissors. We are leaving a decent amount of working length because we can use this for the very little bit of making up that is involved in this pattern. Cutting it. It's a very little bit of making up. It's a lot of making up for my patterns. You know how much I hate it. We're pulling that through. We're pulling it tight. And all of a sudden, you will see that we suddenly have these toe flapper bits and an extra bit. Now, we're going to push these stitches. We're going to just tuck these inside. We're just going to pop them in there happily out the way for now. Push all these stitches down. And as you can see now, we are back to having one stitch on all of the pegs. Okay? Bear with me, because this is where it gets a bit wild. We're going to take our thread, our yarn. I'm going to pop a slip knot in. I'm going to leave a reasonable amount of yarn on there. And what we're going to do is we are going to secure this. We're actually going to use this slip knot as the first stitch. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a much longer piece of working yarn before I pop the slip knot in, because this isn't just going to be to hold it. This is going to be our first stitch. And we're going to we are going to go to peg number right there. So start at peg 24 and count backwards. Okay. We are going to come to, I believe this is peg 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Whoa. Okay, so we're going to come back to peg number 13. And we are going to place this. Actually, no, we're not going to place it on peg number 13. I almost just messed my pattern up. We're going to place it on peg number 12. It's going to go on there, like that. We're going to tighten it a bit. Okay, that's sitting on peg number 12. And you are going to come in this direction, and you are going to wrap peg number 11, 10, 9, 8, and 7. So you have 6 wrapped. You are then, I'm just going to turn that around because it works easier this way. Peg number 12. Peg number, what did we say? 7. Yep. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. We are then going to use peg number 7 as a turning peg. This looks familiar, doesn't it? It is. It's a mirror image of what we just did. So we're going to use number 7 as a turning peg. And we're going to come back and wrap number 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. And then we're going to take our knitting hook and we're going to knit them off. The top ones, we're ignoring the bottom ones, same as last time. They don't exist. And then we're going to come to peg number 13 and we're going to wrap all the way round. From peg number 13 to peg number 24. And then we're going to knit those off. But only to peg number 24. It is very important. No, sorry, only to peg number 13. This is very important. Only to peg number 13. It's easier this time because you've got a little sticky out thing coming off number 12. Count it. If you can't remember it, count it. So you've got 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13. So only to peg number 13. Yeah. Those ones still need 2 on because we're ignoring the bottom ones. Okay, so now we've knitted those off. We come back to peg number 24 and then we come along to peg number 1 and we wrap pegs 1 to 6. Told you it's exactly the same as the last thing we did, but in mirror. That's right, isn't it? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then push those down and using number 6 as, just push the whole thing down there. Using number 6 as a turning peg, we come back and wrap 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1, and completely ignoring the bottom stitches which we are pretending don't exist. We knit off the top 2 stitches on all of those pegs. Obviously ignoring what would be the first stitch in a row being used as a turning peg, because this is going to be our first row working in the flat, but this time instead of working between pegs number pegs number 19 to 18, we are working pegs 7 to 6 and 6 to 7 backwards and forwards in the flat. So once we've knitted those off, we wrap back from 24 all the way down to peg number 7. No! I always do that. So many people are like, you should only wrap one and then knit it off, otherwise they'll all curl off. They hardly ever do. Okay, I like working like this. Okay, so wrapping 24 down to number 7. There we go. Of course, number 6 because it was a turning peg. There. Okay, so, and then we just literally the top 2 stitches on every peg comes off, and that becomes row number 1, and this is row 1 again, row 1 of 7. So much like we did with the last one, work back and forward in the flat using pegs 6 and 7 as your turning pegs for 7 rows, this being the first one. Okay, and of course making sure you ignore the bottom stitches on pegs 1 to 12. They're supposed to have 2 stitches on. Okay, so go, that was row 1, go do another 7 and I will meet you back here. Okay, so we have now done our 7 rows. So there's our turning peg, there's peg 1 and 24, and as you can see we're back round here with the yarn attached to peg number 7. Now I'm not going to go all the way back through this again because we're going to do exactly the same here as we did the last time. So basically on the pegs that have 2 stitches on, you want to cast them off using the same method as last time with a crochet hook. Take one off, put an extra stitch in between each one. When you get to the stitches with just 1 on, you're going to slip an extra hoop, put that on, and then continue to wind round to peg number 1, knit them all off, knit them bottom ones over the top, 2 back to 1, stitch on each of those, and then wind a stitch around the hook and take off, cast off these ones using the same method. So you're back down to 1 stitch on every peg, and do the same thing here, literally exactly the same. Pull it through, cut a long piece off, tie it in a knot. Okay, rewind the video, it's exactly the same thing. So I'm not going to go through it all again, but go and do that and then come back to the video. We're back. We've done the 7, we've cast off onto the end there. Now at this point what we do is something magical. Not really. We're going to tuck that down inside. We're going to push all of our stitches down to the very bottom. As you can see, we are now down to 1 stitch on every single one. Joy. Now you've got these bits in the middle here, and what I want you to do is get them and just push them out. Sometimes they take a little encouraging. And on the other side, come out, a little bit of encouragement, there we go, and this is what we have. Okay, that was the most complicated part over. It all gets painfully easy from here. All we do is we take our yarn, we pop in a slip knot. Just realised this video is probably going to be 2 parts, guys, because this this is easily the most involved pattern we've done. Follow it step by step, and it's still nice and easy though, as all patterns are. Okay, so we put our slip knot in, we pop this on our trusty little holdy peg, and we are going to work in the round A-wrap circular knitting like we did at the start, just wrapping, knitting off round and round for 18 rows, 1 8. Once you've done that, come back to the video and we will take it from there. We've now done our 18 rows. I'm just going to push these down. Now what we need to do is we need to take this off the loom, and we're using a much easier cast off for this. All you want to do for this is make sure you have lots of nice working yarn. As you can see, I'm massively scientific when deciding how much of that it is I actually need. Some. No, you do need a good bit. Normally I wrap it around the yarn twice. Wrap it around the yarn? Wow. Wrap it around the loom twice to get the right length. You need a darning needle. Is this darning needle going to be big enough? Ooh, just might have needed a chunkier one. Okay, now this is the easy, we don't need the crochet hook because this is the easy drawstring cast off method. Basically, darning needle. Peg 1, stitch down and through. Move on to peg 2, down and through. And you simply continue around the loom, going from one to the other in this fashion until you've gone around all of them and have gone through peg number 24. So go and do that and then come back to me. Okay, we've gone down and through every single stitch. Now all we need to do is take this off the loom. So we are just going to use our hook and lift all the stitches off whilst trying not to disturb a lucky butt. Lucky butt. I know, you're in my shot. It's like, I don't care if I'm in your shot. Your shot is in my bed. Okay, so we just go around, we take all of these off. Okay. And eventually we will have all of the stitches off of the loom. And we're free. Okay. At this point, what I want you to do is drop this down inside. Sorry, just tuck that down inside. We are going to turn this whole thing inside out. So it's a little bit more of a struggle when you're working with such chunky yarn. Whole thing inside out. Boom. And all I want you to do for now is we're going to save the making up till a little later. All we want you to do right now is to finish this drawstring cast off by simply taking the yarn and pulling it nice and tight and closing up the top of this. And sometimes, like I say, when you're working with yarn this tight, you do need to give it a little bit of encouragement to pull, woo, camera, to pull all the way through. And just take a little bit of a whoop, there we go. There we go. Because it is so thick, you sometimes will still get a bit of a hole in the top, even when you pull it really tight like that. Just simply, you know, gather it in as best you can using the length of yarn you have. Ooh. Sometimes you just need to go back and really pull it. Usually what I will do is, in order to try and really close the top, is you see where there's this little hole, there's a little hole there, is I will just jump across it and just literally run the needle through, so it's not best lighting there, just running it straight through. So there's the hole, running the needle through, and just really closing that up and pulling it tight, coming back for a second pass at it. Oop. And tying it in a knot, just securing that with a knot. There we go. And we're just going to leave that alone for now. That is as much as we are going to do with our dear little alien body at this stage. In terms of making up. What we now need to do is make him some very stylish ears. So let's do that. Okay, to make our little alien ears, so we are going to start by taking, again, leaving a little bit of work length because we're going to use this for making up our yarn, putting in a slip knot, and from here what we're going to do is we're going to use just 8 of these. Start again. We're going to use 8 of these. No, we're not. We're going to use 10 of these. Ignore me. Where am I at today? So we're going to cast on 10. We're going to cast on 10. So from pegs 1 to 10. And then we're going to knit in the flat for 10 rows. So using our end peg, as we always do, we're going to push these down, and we're going to knit back and forth using first peg of a row, because this is the cast on, so this is our first peg in the row. I'm going to use that as a turning peg, so that one kind of gets ignored, and knit our first row. Okay, so we're just going to go along, knit all of those off. So that is row 1. That's row 1. So mark that down on your little tally sheet. And then simply using first peg as turning peg, wrap and knit off for row 2, and keep going until you have done 10 rows. Once you have done 10 rows in the flat, come back and we'll go from there. Okay, we've done our 10 rows. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take the edge, the end stitch off either side and move it in one. So we're going to lift this one and pop it on there, like that. And we're going to take this one and pop it on there, like that. And then we're just going to knit over. So we're just going to take them back down to 1 stitch each. And now what we're going to do is we're going to continue to knit in the flat, so using this as the turning peg. We are going to knit in the flat just on the ones that still have stitches left on them, for another 3 rows. So I will let you go and do your 3 rows and then come back here. Okay, so I've done those 3 rows. Now what I need you to do is do this, basically the same thing again. So just take the end stitches, bring them in, just keep the tension on there. And then simply knit over. And then again, I want you to do, using first peg on each row as a turning peg, knit in the flat for another 3 rows and then come back here. Okay, so I've done those 3 rows and we're going to do the same thing again. End stitches up and on to the pegs next to them, then knit bottom stitch up and over, and again 3 rows in the flat, making sure you're using turning pegs, and then come back. Okay, we've done those 3 rows as well now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take you don't need loads on this, just a reasonable working length on here. Get your darning needle. And like we did with the last cast off, we're going to make this a little drawstring cast off. So all you do is, I want you to go through the first stitch this time. Make sure you just incorporate that here. So you go down and through. Ooh. Try not to get our threads tangled. Down and through each stitch. And then simply just remove it from the loom. Pull this nice and tight. Pull this nice and tight. I love this pattern so much. This might be one of my favourite patterns. And then simply tie a knot in to secure it. There we go. Now we have a little alien ear, but we need 2 alien ears. We need 2 baby alien ears. So basically, go make another one of these. Exactly the same pattern. Everything the same as this. We just need 2 of them. So just go and make another one of these. And I will meet you back here when you have 2 of these. We now have 2 ears, so I'm going to put my 2 ears with the rest of Alien Baby and put them. I've been watching too much Jenna Marbles. I need to stop randomly singing words. We're going to put the rest of Alien Baby to one side while a noisy cat comes and disrupts my shot. Hey, Loki. Oh, look, we've got rid of the cat, but that was Hazel as well. Okay, we now need our other colour yarn. If anyone's wondering how much yarn you need, I'm not sure what the meterage is on these, but they're 100 grams. They're 100 gram balls of extra chunky yarn, and even with all the knitting we did in the green, there's still a good amount left over. So 100 gram balls of extra chunky, and you should be fine. You need 1 of each colour. Okay. Things get really nice and simple for a little while. This is where I try and do a centre pull and get it wrong. No, I did it. I never get centre pulls right on balls of wool. That's why they end up rolling around everywhere on camera. Okay, so take your brown or whatever colour you're using for your little alien's roby dress malarkey. You don't need a lot of working yarn in the beginning. just pop in a slip knot. So we've got a little hoop there we can attach to our little keeper peg, and we are going back to working in the round. So literally same as we did at the very beginning of this make, literally wrapping every single peg in E-wrap and then just knitting them over round and round for 18 rows, 1-8. Okay, so I'll let you go and crack on with those 18 rows and then I will meet you back here. Okay, our 18 rows are complete. Now I'm about to give you a terrible case of deja vu. Bear with me. So, what we do from here is we've just finished our 18th row knitting in the round. Is we are going to take our yarn, we're going to bring it around peg 24 and wrap it around 23, 22 and 21. We are going to use peg 21 as a turning peg, and we're going to wrap peg 22, 23 and 24 again. We are then going to ignore the bottom row and knit the top 2 stitches on all of the pegs that have 3 stitches on them, she says. Boop, there we go. Which is only 3. We are then going to wrap pegs 1 to 12. 9, 10, 11, 12 in a standard A-wrap, and then we are going to knit those off. Making sure we only knit off pegs 1 to 12, 12 to 1, and we still have 2 stitches that on pegs 24, 23, 22 and 21. Okay, we're going to come round and we're going to find our yarn coming out the back of peg number 12. And we're going to E-wrap pegs number 13, 14, 15 and 16. We are going to use peg 16 as a turning peg and once again wrap pegs, wait there, where were we, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We use peg 16 as a turning peg and re-wrap pegs 15, 14 and 13. And knit those off. By the way, if you ever do this and your pegs actually pop out of the loom, don't worry about it, just press them back in. They're designed to do that. Okay. So then we have 2 stitches on pegs 16, 15, 14 and 13. And then we're back to peg 12, which we're going to wrap. Right the way back round. From peg 12 down to 1. but also put a third stitch on pegs 24, 23, 22 and 21, and from this point on we are going to knit the 2 stitches at the top of each peg in the flat between stitches, between pegs rather, 21 and 16 for 10 rows, and we're going to call this row row 1. Now, I'm sure if you've picked up, this is very similar to what we did on the alien baby body, but on that one we did it 6 extra pegs on each side. This time it's only kind of 4 on each end, which have got the double sort of stitching on, so just be aware of that. Where am I here? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. We're just being, I'm just gonna knit off number 12 so I know where I'm up to. We're just being careful because we already knitted these ones off at the beginning of the row, if you remember, and those are meant to have 2 stitches on. So that is row 1 done, working in the flat between pegs 21 and 16. That's row 1. We need to work back and forward in the flat between these 2 pegs using the first or last, however you want to call it, one on each end as a turning peg for 10 rows. So we're going to mark down that is row number 1. If you continue going for 10 rows in the same way and then come back to the video and we'll take it from there. Okay, we has done our 10 rows in the flat and this is where we are. I'm doing it again. Okay, again you're probably about to get deja vu here and recognize this process. So what we are going to do is we need our trusty crochet hook again. We're going to start at the last stitch we did, which is peg, where are we up to? Peg, not 12, 16? Was it peg 16? I forgot now. 1 2 3 4 5, no, that's 24. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 12 13 14 15 16. I was right. So we take our second, because there's still one on, so we take our stitch off peg 16, we pop it on the crochet hook and we're going to pull through an extra stitch, and then we're going to take the secondary stitch off peg 15, pop that on, put it through, pop an extra stitch in between, extra stitch off peg 14, pull that through, extra stitch in between, and finally for this bit, extra stitch off peg 13, come off, and just pull that through, wrap, pull an extra stitch through, there we go, and then that goes on to peg 12 there. We then wrap, peg 12 has that stitch on it there, we then wrap 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1, and knit those off. Come back in. As you can see, we just have these 4 secondary stitches still on pegs 24, 23, 22 and 21. So we are going to loop one round onto our crochet hook there before taking the extra stitch off peg number 24. And then pulling that through, and then simply pulling that through there. Put another stitch on. There we go. It's a little tight first, but it's fine. And then stitch off 23. Pull that through. Pull an extra stitch through. And then 22. Pull your extra one through, and then finally number 21, extra stitch off, pull it through, pull an extra one through, leave a small amount of working yarn, a reasonable amount, we can use it for making up a little bit, pull that through, pull that tight, and you are back down to 1 stitch on every peg. Stuff that down in the middle so it's out the way, and then again, oh wait, which of these was the actual working end? No, is it this one? Okay, sorry if there's a weird jump in the video there. I just realised we were badly losing light, so adjusted things slightly. Okay, so again, 1 stitch on every peg. We are then going to take our yarn again. We are going to pop in a small slip knot. Now, again, you're going to get deja vu here. This isn't just going to be something to hold the yarn on the loom. This is going to be this is going to form a stitch, and we are going to pop this on peg number 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and pop that on there. Then what we do is we wrap peg number, that's correct, 11, 10 and 9. And we're going to flip this round, and we use 9 as a turning peg, and we wrap 8. No, we don't. We use 9 as a turning peg and we wrap 10, 11 and 12. And then we knit these off. And we completely ignore the ones on the bottom. And then we simply wrap pegs 13 through to 24. And we knit those off. Making sure, of course, that pegs number 12, 11, 10 and 9 remain 2. So I'm just going to knit off peg number 13 so I know where we're up to. Hello, Dave. Can you get your murder mittens out of my knitting, please? Thank you. Okay. And then we push those down. And we're back at peg 24. Just try and get these bits to lie kind of as flat as you can really on the inside. I think it'll be a bit bulky, but just try and keep them down out of the way. And we're going to wrap pegs 1, 2, 3 and 4. And we're going to use peg 4 as a turning peg. And we're going to wrap back from peg 4 to 3, 2, 1. We're going to wrap all the way around pegs 24 back down to 12 to 13, and then we're going to go on to these ones that are already double wrapped and put another stitch on 12, 11, 10 and 9, and then we're going to simply knit off the top 2 stitches on every row, on every peg. On every row. So we're going to knit these off, and this is going to be row number 1. And all we're going to do is knit back and forth in the flat between pegs 9 and pegs 4, using the first one in every row as a turning peg, and we're going to do that for 10 rows. You can almost predict this pattern as it's coming out at this point, can't you? Okay, so work back and forwards pegs between pegs 4 and 9, or 9 and 4, between 9 and 4, yeah. Because you're going the long way around. For 10 rows in the flat, using the first peg as a turning peg. I will let you go and do that now for 10 rows as I finish my first row and mark that down. And then when you have done 10 rows, I will meet you back here and we shall continue. Okay, I have now done the 10 rows. Now, what you need to do is take your crochet hook and again take this down to 1 stitch on each peg. I'm not going to go through it again. How many times have we done this in this project now? But basically, you know, on the pegs that have 2 stitches on, take it off, pull through, take it off, pull through, take it off, pull through. When you come to here, you're going to E-wrap and knit off to get your working thread round to these 4 that are double wrapped, and then once again wrap your yarn round, take it off, pull through, take it off, pull through, till you get to the end, pull through, tie knot, and take it off. And I will be back when we have this project once again back down to 1 peg on every hook. If you need to see it again, just rewind the video back to when we did it the last time. Okay, we've now taken those off in the same way. I know I've said a few times in this video, just rewind and do that, I know that can be a little annoying in a video. However, I'm also very aware of how long this video is. So I'm trying to keep the upload a little bit more sensible. Okay, so we're at this point now, and like we did with the body of our little alien, we can just fold these bits out. And these ones are shorter, obviously, because we only used the 4 pegs on each side for his little tunic. Oh, tiny tunic for tiny alien. Oh, okay. And the end is inside. We're almost at making up time. It is a bit of a project, this one. It's nice though. We haven't really done a long project. Most of the projects we do, you can do very quickly. Okay, so we're just going to take our yarn once again. We're going to pop in a little slip knot. We're going to pop it onto our securing peg. And we are going to go back to knitting in the round. Nice and simple. Just literally A-wrapping every peg, working around and around for another 10 rows. And once you've done those 10 rows, come back to the video. We'll get this off the loom and we'll start making up. Hello. Okay. We've done our 10 rows. We just need to take this off the loom now. We are going to do this. We want this to have a nice flat, not gathered finish. So we are going to do this via crochet hook method. So simply going to lift it off. The same way we've been doing this right the way through, basically. I'm going the wrong way around a loom. Oh, this has been a long tutorial. And I'm going to mess it up at the end by doing a stupid face on my little alien baby, because I can't do faces. Okay, so we hook. We pull. Lordy. We pull through. And then we take our next one off. We get the stitch. And we pull it through. We pop an extra little stitch in. So through, yeah. And then we take the next one off. Put it through. Pop an extra little stitch in. Take one off, pull it through, and basically we're going to go around the entirety of the loom like this until we've took all of the stitches off. Okay, so I will let you go and do that, and then we will come back and make up our little alien baby. Okay, it is now off the loom. I'm going to do this first, and then we are going to move on to our little alien baby. Okay, so I just need to get rid of this. So in order to do that, I keep losing needles today. There we go. I am just, first off, let's turn inside out and work on the inside. Yeah, sorry, I've been watching the National Theatre Live on YouTube, and now I'm going to have that song in my head all day. Okay, so this, see, now you can tie this together, but I like it. These are meant to be slightly sort of like, ooh, like roby, casually, slightly worn robes. So I like having that little nick in there. So I'm just going to work this in. She says not even able to thread a needle. Okay. So let's just work that down through some stitches to get rid of it. Okay, that is fine. Okay, now with the little sleeveys on the little robe, because that's what these are going to be, because I want this to look quite billowy, I'm only going to sew along the top of the sleeve and just leave the bottom open. If you want to close it up, you close it up. That's fine. There are no problems there, but I'm going to leave it open. So I'm just going to take this piece and stitch along the top. In fact, rather than making this video even longer than it already is, I'm going to go and just close up along the top of both of these and just sort of tie them in. And then I'm going to go around, and any loose threads, I'm going to make sure they're securely tied and just run like I did with that one. Just work in the ends and tidy them up, and then I'll come back when we're at that stage. Okay, so we have done that. Now we are just going to flip it right side in, out. It's been a long tutorial. I'm not sure where we are anymore. Okay, like I said, if you want to close these little armies up fully, you can. That is fine. You're not supposed to be sticking out. Get back through there. You can just push little stray ones back through. Okay, now what we do is the top. You can see it's very big. That's going to fold over. There's going to be a little rolly bit for a little alien baby to snuggle in. I don't know where this voice is coming from. I keep doing random Moira Rose impressions. I miss Schitt's Creek. Okay. Ta-da! Okay, now what we need to do is we need to make a little alien. I'm sorry, I keep randomly singing things. Lockdown has been long. Lockdown has been long. It's been a long tutorial. Now, normally, I like to... Right, okay, first of all, when we did this, I said this was inside out. But I actually think this texture makes better alien skin. So I'm going to have this as the right side. Now, that means, first of all, I need to get rid of this. So let's deal with all of these little odds and ends that we need to sort out. So first of all, I'm going to push this down inside of my alien and working, literally just pushing it down into his head, and we will work the ending once we flip him. It does not need to be this long either. I could have trimmed it before. Ah, no, little alien. Anyway, just pull that through. Okay, so now we've dealt with that. I'm going to turn him completely inside out to make him up first of all. I should at least deal with all the threads, so I'm just going to grab his head, pull him inside out, which is the right way for a lot of the makes we do. Now this little guy, where are your arms? We need to, it's fairly self-explanatory what's going to happen here. It's a fairly obvious pattern. But what we need to do at this point is we need to sew along his little arms. So we need to seam all the way around here. And all the way around here. Just using just a whip stitch. We're not talking any particularly fancy stitch, just literally whip stitch using your yarn around the edges. Leave the bottom open for now. This gets closed up towards the end of the make. So for now, just kind of work this in and get rid of it and whip stitch around your arms. Using your, if you haven't got enough working yarn, just use some of your spare yarn. It's fine. So I will let you do that and then we'll come back to the video. Okay, we have seamed around our little arms. We've just tied this in a knot. We've trimmed that. We've generally tidied up our little alien baby. And now we need to make him the right way. So we're going to grab, that sounded really sinister, didn't it? Anyway, we need to pull him this way. So we're just going to turn him back the right way. Like this. And get his little arms out. Give me your tiny little alien arms. I'm really not doing a good job at not sounding sinister. I apologise. Tiny little alien. I need to stop. Right, okay. I know what you're thinking. I'm not seeing an alien, Lily. I'm seeing a cactus. Give me time. It's going to have faith. Have I ever let you down before? Have I? Remember the rabbit? Remember the tiny bunny? That looked nothing like a bunny. And then magically, bunny. Okay. Now, normally, see, I'm trying to, if I stuff this, I'm just going to go there. I think I want the eyes about there. And normally, I do the face after. But I don't know if I want to do the face after this time. Do I? I think I will. I've had to find some like dark tealy blue. It looks really bright blue on this camera. But anyway, I've had to find this to stitch the buttons on with because I realised my darning needles wouldn't go through the holes on the buttons. So yeah, that's quite a small needle. So I should, yes, let's do the face last. Okay, that means at this point, what we need to do is actually I can use this piece of scrap yarn. Again, it looks like I'm killing people by strangling them. I'm not. You know, this needle's very small as well. I want a bigger needle. Yes, this is where we find out Lily loses hooks all the time, so has a stash of many spares. Okay, so we are going to take a piece of this yarn. And we're basically going to, not right at the top of the arms, but a little bit further up. So about here, about a centimetre further up, so about in here. Not too far. We're just going to running stitch right the way, actually right the way around. So we're going to just keep going in a nice neat running stitch right the way around. Alien baby. And all the way around, so we're coming through the sides too. Where's that coming out about there? Yeah, you want to make sure you're obviously joining the sides up. Anyone who saw the cat videos knows what's coming here. Okay, so now we've done that. We need to give our little alien a head. So we're going to take some of our soft toy stuffing and add it a little at a time so you can see how puffy your head is getting. You want more stuffing. More stuffing. I think the head wants to be quite firm because I've got to attach ears to it and stuff. So yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, and then grab the ends, pull, squish it into shape, pull the ends, not too tight. There's going to be a bit of a neck there, but pull the ends and basically tie these in a knot. And then we're going to feed these down inside alien baby. And I need to stop that. We're going to feed these down inside to just make them disappear. There we go. Get rid of this one down the other side. And I'm just going to trim these a bit just so they're not just dangling around in there. Okay, so alien baby. Okay, now we need to stuff little alien baby's body. Now, yeah, let's put a bit of stuffing in up here before we shape his little legs. You like legs, Lily? We didn't make separate legs. No, we didn't, but we're gonna give him the appearance of legs anyway. So you want to make sure you're going right the way down into the arms. I'm not going to stuff him too much. I want him to be fairly soft in the body. Little soft, squishy body. Okay, a little bit more there. Normally when I make toys and stuff, I'm like, I never know what I'm going to do with this. This has already been claimed by my son. Okay. I love this bit. Normally I don't like making up, but when you're making something so cute and adorable, it's like, how can you not like it? Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take another piece of our spare yarn. You don't want loads, you know. You don't need a lot for this. I'm going to pop. Now, we do need to secure this. So normally, and this is always a bit awkward, you'll have seen me do this with the cat video, is I just go so far up. So I look kind of generally how far up I'm going to go, which in this is about here. And then I go inside and I just catch a stitch and tie it. There's probably other ways to do it, but this is how I do it. So there. Okay, and then simply just feed your needle back through. Is that central? Because this is one thing with, yeah, that's pretty central. Okay, there we go. Now all we're going to do is just back stitch or running stitch, whatever you want, down alien baby's body. I might just running stitch it actually. Just do a fairly tight running stitch. I am going to not do this on camera because I'm going to end up going wonky and I don't want to. So I'm going to just running stitch all the way down the bottom and then come back. Okay, you can see I've done a row of stitches down there. And then all we need to do is get more stuffing. Stuff alien baby's legs. I need to stop randomly singing tutorials. I'm sorry, YouTube. Okay. Stuff my little... I'm doing it again. Okay, now we're at this stage and we have our little legs stuffed and we're happy with this. We just need to close them up. So we just literally need to get another piece of yarn and stitch along the bottom. Again, I'm just going to go and do that off camera because you don't need to see me whip stitch that. It's very self-explanatory. And I will be back when I've done that bit. We have legs. Okay, now the time has come for me to give this little guy a face. And as you know, I hate doing this. I'm literally going to add some button eyes, and I've got some slightly darker green coloured yarn that I'm going to use. I might attempt a little mouth. I don't know. I'm going to do it off camera though, because I hate doing faces. But you guys, who are probably way more talented than me, can come up with whatever little face you want to add to your alien. Use buttons, use embroidery, use sequins, use whatever you want. And then we'll meet back when we've done this, and we just need to then add his ears and get him dressed. We have a face. Now, the only thing that's left to do here is to attach the ears. Now, if you attach the ears like this, they're going to be huge and it's not going to work. So what you want to do is you want to fold. There's like ridges on the opposite side. So if you go to the first ridge and you fold that over, so you're putting a crimp in it there and attach it like that. That's how you want it on both sides, okay? And you just want to work this end bit in and trim it off. Again, I'm going to do that. It is basically a case of folding it and literally whip stitching it on to your little alien baby's head there. So it's very straightforward. So I'm not going to do it on camera because it's really hard to work on a 3D object around a camera. So I'll go and do that and then I'll come back. He has ears, big flappy ears. Okay, now we just need to get him dressed. Now, the easiest way to do this is to, I think, in fact I know, because this is quite a tight fit, is to go body in through the neck. You ain't getting those ears up and through. Okay, so go body in through the neck. Trust me on this. You can kind of tackle his little legs up and get him all the way down and scoot his little arms in. Shuffle him down and then pull his little arms out. Yay! There we go. And he's got his little collar, and he needs to scoot his little head into his little collar. Idiot baby. Okay, there will be a tutorial for this, goes up on sort of the written instructions for this little guy will go up on my Patreon. They'll be available elsewhere as well. But what I would say is it may take me a little longer than normal to get this up, purely because it is quite, as you'll see from the length of the tutorial, it is quite a lengthy pattern. So yeah, there he is. I hope you've enjoyed this one, guys. We may be back with a slightly simpler one next month.